Hello, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today and taking the time. I understand it's late for a few time zones and it's early for a few others. But thank you for still taking the time to join in. And today, I think we're covering a very important topic as to how do you transition from being a tester to leader with our very own super experienced Siddhant Wadhwani. He's a big voice in tech and for a good reason. I think he has immense following on social media, and again, that comes with good reason because he has such good things to say, and everyone kind of wants to know his opinion. So, thank you, Siddharth, for joining us today, and yeah, and be willing to share all your experience and knowledge, and we're kind of trying to tap into that for this very topic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Puja, for the warm welcome.
So I think before we again, I think today it's all about Siddhant and tapping into his experience. But a little before that, let me just give a quick introduction about myself so everyone knows who I am and it doesn't feel a little off that who's this person yapping on the screen for about 45 minutes. My name is Puja Jagani. I am a lead open source engineer at BrowserStack and also a developer advocate relatively recently. And yeah, this is what I do. We try to do developer events. You'll find me on the BrowserStack Discord and love talking everything tech, test, and everything software that there is. Over to you, Siddharth. A short introduction. Can we get one, please?
Sure, Puja. So, as most of you know, I'm Siddhant Wadhwani. I'm an avid tech enthusiast, traveler, speaker, blogger, mentor, and also I create content on LinkedIn. Um, you can say I'm more of a tech whisperer during the weekdays and more of a conference junkie over the weekend. But yeah, if you don't see me automating tests, it's more of like I'm automating excuses for planning a trip over the weekend. So, it's either breaking tests, fixing them, or pretending that all of this was just part of a plan. And yeah, apart from work, I'm more of a badminton ninja. So you'll find me on shuttle, on courts, playing with the shuttle. And I'm also a firm believer in Control plus C in life. So yeah, that's me.
Wow, that was a lovely introduction. I think very well covered. It was really nice and whole rounded, to be very honest. I think I'll definitely take some inspiration
Thank you.
um, from your storytelling style. And I like how you enjoy conferences. I think they are really great to
Yeah.
communicate your ideas, to share the knowledge with the community. So I think, and it's not easy to do that as well. So
Mhm.
appreciate all the effort you put out there for the community. Okay, so before we deep dive into the topic that we have at hand today, just a quick housekeeping items. The session's going to be roughly 40 to 45 minutes. We'll encourage everyone to be on mute, which kind of should be by default, given this is a webinar style. But this is also an AMA, so we don't want to silence your voice. So we welcome you to send in all the questions through the Zoom Q&A window. Please send in all your questions. We're here to answer them in collaboration with Siddhant and get you the best answer and tips and guidance that we can in this duration. So please feel free to send out your questions. We'll try to spend maximum time answering those questions. Yeah. Also, the session is being recorded. Just to might be mindful of that. But yeah, that's something that'll be also available later in case you have another meeting or an event to attend. And that's about it. So I think let's just dig in. Yeah. This is a little agenda for today. I don't think AMAs have an agenda, so it is not technically an agenda. It's just basically what the goal of this session is, right? What we would like to cover. Essentially, and this is very high level again, so this could be driven by the questions people have in the AMA about how to grow their career in the testing space. But I think one thing that we will aim as a part of our conversation today is to cover how can one um, move to the next level in a leadership role or the different options that are there for anyone in the career who's been in the testing space, either someone's new or who's been there from for a while. And we want to kind of draw from the experiences Siddhant has in terms of going from individual contributor to some leading manager in the process. And yeah, what are some tips and tricks to do that? So everything around that. So the goal today is to pretty much cover that. Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Yeah. So before we kind of jump in, and then I'm also keeping an eye on if you're having questions and things like that. But Meanwhile, I think I wanted to ask this question to you, Siddhant. How did your career get started, like in testing? Like, you can also give a little bit background, and that's totally okay. But like,
Sure.
what was like your first opportunity where you got to dip your toe in the testing waters? Yeah.
So Pooja, yeah, good question, and good start. To be honest, my journey into testing wasn't by design, but rather Destiny had its own role to play in it, and it was a different plan than mine. I started out like most of the freshers do, right out of post-graduation college. I completed my master's in computer applications, and as most people are, I was eager to code and hungry to explore. So that's why I started. Initially, I was more inclined towards development. I'm sure most of us have been through that phase where it's either engineering or doctor. You want to end up into some role, right? So my career started as a software development engineer. I worked at a company called MEQ Software, where I was working more on as a full stack engineer uh, on on projects like big data analytics and cloud computing, and also account-based marketing for clients like Microsoft, Starbucks, Amazon. But when I got exposed into testing, um, this entire space was completely new to me, and especially automation. That's something that just clicked as soon as I got more into the depths of it. So I realized that testing wasn't about breaking things, but rather it was more of instilling confidence within the software. And that was something that drove the passion within me. Early on, I faced a lot of stereotypes, and I'm sure many of us on the call have heard or maybe gone through that phase where we do believe that testing is secondary or testers can't be technical. But I use that noise as a fuel. So what I did was I spent early mornings or late nights where I was simply learning automation scripts or different tools and techniques, building frameworks, understanding the depths of CI/CD, and all the way like from scratch to in-depth advanced level stuff where we built things for the team, scaled, and it was all global. So what started as a role became finally a craft, and then finally it was more towards like a calling. That's how I transformed into the SDET role from an SDE and all the way to being an engineering manager right now. So it was all about constant reimagination of what a tester could be and the endless possibilities that follow. Yeah, that's in short.
Wow, I think that was a lovely answer. And I really like your thought process about how you think about testing and the importance of testing. And I'm glad you addressed the stereotype part of it. And I think we'll get to do it a little bit later as well. But I really like, or I think I immensely agree with the thought that being a tester means you're very, very technical.
Yep,
And sometimes I think you need a little bit more than being a developer when it comes to knowledge, because it's a very whole rounded knowledge of a lot of things.
yep,
So you have to understand the core at hand, different technologies. It's an ever evolving landscape. So, keeping up with all the frameworks, there are various expectations that come in, and there is no one QA profile that fits all, right? Every
yep,
company has a different definition of how they do it, different beliefs of how they do it. And I'm glad you kind of embraced it and went through. So, okay, I think I'll go ahead with and ask you the stereotype question anyways. I
sure.
know you said that you kind of use it as a fuel, to kind of zone out from all the
Yep.
noise and then push you forward. Um, so what, how do you kind of train yourself to do that? Because I understand that there's a stereotype that comes in this space, and a lot of people are always potentially looking that, hey, how can I go from being a tester to developer? Just
Right.
because of the perceived notion
Hmm.
that is not always as positive as it actually should be for this
Right.
space, right? So, what kind of a mindset or maybe a tip that you would share with someone to kind of, push through this, like,
Hmm.
how you did?
I'll put it into three different buckets. So there are multiple challenges that we as testers face, but one stereotype, like I called out, is testers aren't that technical. That's what most people do believe. Um, and I'll put it as a challenge as undervaluation. So people do feel, in fact, testers do feel that they are undervalued, which is often the case. Um, it feels that their work is invisible. You may be catching bugs before they hit production, but if that impact isn't seen or quantified, it's easy to get overlooked. I've seen several instances where top management just wants metrics to track or understand the ROI from testing and automation when quality is key. But the same is never analyzed on the development front. Same if you see challenge number two would be lack of career path. And like you mentioned, why continue in that testing role when you can always get more technical and move into development, or also you have the product management path. So most unlike devs, what I would say, you have front end, back end, or full stack. Testers often don't have a structured ladder. You have manual, you have automation, you have the SDET role, which has evolved over the past few years. But switching into development or product management becomes the default growth story, which is limiting. I've seen the reverse as well. In fact, in my team, I've had developers who have switched into being SDETs. So I've seen that path as well. And the third challenge which I've seen is skill gaps in storytelling. Many testers do brilliant work, but they struggle to articulate value to the stakeholders. So when it comes to presenting all the value, all the work that they have been able to do, uh, they somehow lack that capability, and that hinders growth. So I think a collaboration and amalgamation of all these three challenges is what I tackled within my team, like individually myself, and then made sure that the team also works on these challenges. And what I generally believe is we should welcome all challenges and find a way to convert them into opportunities. So you have context switching if you're into an individual contributor role, or if you want to switch into management role, you need to understand where the difference lies, what is expected out of you. And yeah, I think it's all about mindset. So if you have that inner zeal within you, you can achieve anything.
And I think that was a very well structured answer for
Mhm.
for being in a career, like you said, that is not always a structured ladder,
Yeah.
right? And I think again relating to that, I'm curious to know how did your career ladder look like, right? You went from being an individual contributor all the way to the leadership role that you're very much in and thriving in. So what did your journey look like? Was it a smooth one? Was it a bumpy ride? Was it well thought through steps? Or some sprinkling of luck? I think everyone has a different path. So it'll be
Yeah.
just nice to, if you could give a highlight of your journey, just as an inspiration, and then we can move on now further. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. So, firstly, I'll just put some light into the individual contributor role and the leadership role, so how that differs. It's more of like a transformation that goes beyond titles. It's all about mindset, like I said earlier. So, as an IC, your focus is how can I solve the problem? Whereas when you change and become like grow as a leader or think as a manager, it more of is along the lines like how can my team solve bigger problems, be more consistent, and make sure it's being done sustainably. So this shift has always been challenging, and in my personal case, I had to let go of being the go-to person. You can say I was at times called the one-man army within the team. So I had to get through all those notions and instead become more of a coach and a multiplier when it came into the leadership role. So I started mentoring, identifying where the skill gaps lie, creating reusable solutions, and driving thought leadership. One of the proudest moments was when the team scaled across geographies and they consistently shipped high quality software to production, even in my absence. So that was a really great achievement. And that's real leadership because when your systems, culture, and people work seamlessly without needing you in the room, I think you have achieved what you mean. So I think If I had to put my career trajectory in front, again, like you said, every person in this room has been through a different story, a different path. I started off as a software development engineer, like I said earlier. That was at my first company. I worked there for around 6 months or so. But then, as a dev, who is always too technical, like I told you, my weekends also go more around surfing the internet or exploring what's new in the market. I found that uh, at some point it was too boring because you do get answers on Stack Overflow, and now you have several AI tools where you can just copy paste. And I found the role of testers more challenging because, of course, the stereotypes, there's automation where coding is again involved, and there's a lot more. So you get a lot of exposure into several, I mean, the breadth that you can deep dive into was humongous. So yeah, that's where the transition came from SD to um, you can say a quality assurance analyst. And from there, I moved into being a senior module lead estate within the first 3 years of my career. So I was more of given challenges because the way at which I was able to pick stuff and deliver. Um, the managers to realize my potential. Again, it could differ person to person, but in my experience, yes, I got more of leadership skills where I could make decisions, uh, do brainstorming, do a lot of competitive analysis over and above what a tester's role is, over and above my development skills that I had. And I had more of a 360-degree view because while I got promoted to being a senior module lead estate, I was also made an associate product manager. So I was playing dual roles at the same time. And that gave me a lot of exposure as to what's happening within the company as well as across the industry. And with that knowledge, I think now it's been over 10 years, the overall experience, and I've grown from being more of like a lead estate in the technical segment. And I felt that I did achieve a lot technically. So now I wanted to take up more challenging roles, think of how I can lead teams, how I can make sure that people own their stuff. And it's not that even though I transitioned into this management path, I'm non-technical now. So I make it a habit that at least 30% of my week's time I spend on more technical stuff and whatever is there current in the industry.
And I think that's very important. It's
Mhm.
important to stay relevant. It's important to be up to date. It's also important to speak the same language
Yeah,
as the others in your team. And I think one point that I really like to draw refocus attention to is the fact that your team could sustain in your absence. I think that is the biggest form of leadership achievement that you can have. And I think kudos to you to be able to get that, because when you have, you've kind of empowered your entire team to function well without you. That means you've
right.
done your job as a true leader. And I'm glad. So I'm really glad. Thank you for sharing your journey. And I think we have been talking for around 20 minutes. So let's just
Mhm.
move on to a little pause or a break for the group. Just onto a poll question, just for some little engagement, and then we'll move on to the next segment.
Sure.
Yeah, I think all of you should be able to see a question pop in your webinar. Please feel free to answer. And yeah, if you'd be happy to try out some BrowserStack products, let us know, just out of curiosity, or there's a use case that fits you. Either ways is okay. I'll give that another minute and then we can go ahead. We hope most folks have gotten a chance to participate in the poll. Thank you, Sakshi, for driving that. Let's go on to the main section, what we're here for today. So I think we roughly have another 20 minutes to go over. a bunch of questions, and I already see we got some questions that have been pouring in. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the tab. Oops. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to see questions. Okay, um we have a few questions, and let's okay, we'll start with the first one. Um, the Do you have any recommendations for courses or certifications for people coming from manual testing space who want to kind of expand, I think, their sphere of influence, or get more opportunities? Oh, yeah, that's the first question that we have.
This is, in fact, a good question, I would say, because at least that shows the passion within the person, whoever has asked that he or she wants to transition into automation, learn something new, pick up a new skill. Uh, there's not one such certification or course which will get you like literally everywhere. So I would say connect with me whenever you get time. I'm approachable on LinkedIn. You can just ping me at any point of time. But yeah, just to answer at this spot, I would say identify your gaps or the technical skills that you want to develop. If you're looking for UI automation, or if you're looking for mobile automation, API automation, there are several websites. Like if you have Test Automation University, it gives you different learning paths, different career paths. So you can choose a specific segment and grow from there. You have number of courses which are available on Udemy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning. I would say as much time you get to upskill yourself on those technical areas, I think put that to use. And it's not only about courses and certifications when it comes to being relevant within the industry. I would say uh, improve your networking. Try to be part of such webinars or events or conferences, preferably in person, if not at least virtually. But that's where you get to hear from the best minds in the industry and connect with people, and also self-reflect on yourself where you are lacking, or maybe you may know certain things others may not know. So that's where you can bring yourself out and start sharing that. So yeah, I would just summarize in short. But yeah, if you want to look at anything specific, I'm always reachable.
Thank you for that, Siddhanta. That's very kind of you. And I kind of uh, agree. I think the internet is full of courses
Yeah,
and certifications, and it's easy for anyone to kind of get overwhelmed or feel like they're kind of drowning in what to get where. But I think it's important as to what they want the next step to look like,
yeah,
or what that direction should be, and then figure out how one can bridge the gap. And like you said, skills are not just technical, those are something obviously that you learn. And you'd want to take courses and certifications to get there, but there are also other skill gaps that kind of need to be thought through and developed,
yeah.
or worked with someone to do that. So thank you for offering that help. Okay, moving on to the next question. Hello, I started my journey in QA as a QA engineer last month, and now I'm performing manual testing in my project and also learning automation testing. Is it possible to create automation script before performing manual testing?
I think that's a good question. To be honest, yes, you can. While the devs are working on the code and you already have your requirements in place, you have the Figma designs or any specific designs that you use, any tool. Um, I think you can already design those test cases. Of course, for automation, you need locators, you need your endpoints and all available. So whatever is ready, you can start with those, automate that while development is in progress. And that's where in sprint automation also comes in, if you have heard the term. So if you have, I mean, if you're working in a sprint format where you know what tickets are going to be delivered to you within a sprint, you start picking those and block some time for automating them. Of course, you should have a list of test cases identified early on. That's when the requirement phase comes in, where you're involved in those technical discussions, the kickoff meetings, and also the scrum ceremonies. So I would say not 100% where you can do automation first and manual second. It all goes parallel. But yes, you can give more time to automation, and I would recommend that. That's a best case approach. So If you are at that stage where your product is stable, you don't have a lot of frequent changes, things are not flaky in nature, go ahead and do that.
Okay, and I think that's well put because, yeah, like every application is different, how every
Mm,
team works is different. Like I said, like you said, there's no
yep,
structured ladder or there's no structure to how teams operate in this. But
right,
um, if they have a structure that can support or sustain this, I feel QA should be part of the development discussions, planning process from day one
right.
because they can give you all the possible edge cases that you never even thought of. So
Mm.
it's a well-rounded effort that one must sit in. But again, every corporate and company operates in a very different manner. Okay. Moving on to the next question. I'm a manual tester and I want to switch to automation testing, and I'm currently learning Java Selenium. I like I feel like the coding part is a little hard for me. Do you have any advice or roadmap for someone like me?
See, I'm not a big uh, I don't like to talk a lot about frameworks, tools, or technology in general because any single a company is not going to stick to one single framework. And even if you learn Selenium, it's not like you shift to another company and they are using Selenium. So I would say keep upskilling. That is something you should do on and on. But at the same time, if you're not too technical and want to start off with automation, I think robot framework, personally, I have spent over 6, 7 years working on it. It's simple English language and doesn't require you to be very technical. Of course, you have Python and Java behind the scenes where you can write custom logic, custom functions. But I think there are a lot of libraries that come along with it with predefined functions which get the job done. So if you aren't someone who is very strong in programming, you can definitely try this option.
Yeah, and I think I kind of agree with that thought process in the sense that um, if you think I would suggest not being married to a framework. So if you find like coding hard, I understand one language can be hard, another can be easy. It's a very subjective thing per person. I would highly recommend to build the core foundation understanding of what it requires to be in the testing space and kind of take it from there. But like aligning it with what Siddharth said, he mentioned about robot framework as his experience in that. I think there are a lot of low code automation tools
Yeah,
coming out there for the very same reason. I work for BrowserStack. BrowserStack has what, so I'll always talk about it. But like, and they use brilliant AI models to then kind of assist you in, kind of how you can, you can express your knowledge of testing something and then have that convert into automation tests and do the whole thing end to end beautifully for you. So it might be worthwhile to even explore such tools to probably get inspiration or comfortable around this space as well. Just a suggestion. But yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. How do you approach code reviews when instead continues to write code in a way uh, that you've already discussed doing differently? Okay. So I'm guessing this is a question about conflict where
mhm.
someone continues in spite of a discussion or a review that had two differing opinions, but they still went on to choose their opinion. Yeah.
I think this is a very good question, and someone smart has definitely questioned this. So I would put it in the sense like before we start designing and building frameworks, we should set up certain checklists and guidelines in place and make sure that the team is abiding with those and we start resolving any conflicts that may arise later on. But of course, as the team grows and we have new people who keep joining in, everyone has a different mind, a different thought process. So there may be conflicts. And yeah, the way one person codes, not necessarily another person codes in the same manner. So it is more of, I would say, the onus lies on three roles. Firstly, the person who is committing the changes needs to make sure that they are looking at the guidelines, making sure their code is following the best practices, the coding standards. Second, the reviewers who have been assigned for reviewing the specific pull request or doing the code review they are put in that spot or put in that position because they have certain disciplines to follow. So people who are experienced, people who know what coding standards are inside out, I think it's their responsibility to take more ownership and make sure that we don't merge PRs into whatever master branch until whatever comments are there added by the PR reviewers have been addressed. And last but not the least, you can make use of probably AI tools. You have GitHub Copilot, just an example, where you can set up certain guidelines, just pass it to it, and leverage AI for reviewing your code. Of course, you can't depend 100% on it. I don't believe in relying 100% on AI. You have to use your human mind. That's a different topic between generative AI and human intelligence. But yeah, that's one takeaway for this.
And I would like to add a little bit to that. Obviously, 100%, I guess, human expertise is the core. So you can
Mhm.
always use AI tools, like they say, tools. They're there to assist you to make your life a little easier, but definitely not replace you. At the same time, when it comes to code reviews, I would suggest anyone who's writing code to first um, kind of align with your team on the expectation in terms of what is the definition of done for this
Yeah.
particular feature or a bug. Because often I realize that sometimes if you're it doesn't happen as much with a bug, but if you have a new feature, sometimes the whole conversation kind of digresses, right? Where someone might see an old piece of code and they'll suggest redoing another pattern or introducing a pattern or questioning why this was done in so and so manners in the past. So, like it said, it's a twofold role. So I think the reviewers kind of need to be mindful in understanding the goal of that particular pull request. And if there's something that's going beyond the scope, you can always offer to then identify what is the definition of done for this one, and then creating another change or another task in your sprint or like a tech debt that you can take it up later at any given point of time. And also, it's important for anyone who's reviewing to be very mindful to understand the rationale behind why something was done the way it was done, right? So it's a job to kind of, it's a dual role where you have to kind of mentor also, or sometimes be a little strict also for the sake of the code base and kind of have that in place as well. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Sorry, I didn't miss a question. Okay, yeah, correct. These days, the management roles of SDET QA are not found. For example, SDET manager, director of QA, they don't seem to be, they seem to be reduced in the market. So they're often merged with engineering manager or director of engineering, right? What should be the career ladder for someone again in the QA space? You know, are SDETs not valued or are they undervalued these days?
I think, yeah, another question and something similar to how I started my discussion early on. Uh, for testers, yes, there is not one such fixed career path or progression as we see. It's not structured, and we have seen that. But if I had to design this in as per my visual, it would be more of three different roles where it's quality engineers, automation engineers, and SDETs. SDETs in this case have a superior role where they literally know everything, whether it's manual, whether it's automation, whether it's deep diving into infrastructure, DevOps, generative AI, cloud, for that matter, even into development. So when we look at SDET, manager, director of testing, or different roles, probably head of QA, you must have encountered multiple other roles apart from these. You will see that a lot of companies, in fact, the SDET role started off with Microsoft, and at some point they simply discarded that and they brought in only engineers, but expected them to know testing inside out. So yeah, the roles may keep changing, the titles may keep changing, but what is important is the skills that you have within you. So that's why I keep saying that keep unlearning whatever legacy stuff you have learned and keep upskilling on new stuff, keep being relevant within the industry. You should also follow the 70-20-10 model, which is 70% on the job experience that you gain 20% of the informal learning that you have, which is probably peer-to-peer learning within your team, and 10% of like courses, certifications, being part of webinars, conferences, networking, and stuff like that. So it's all in all on you, not on me, not on Pooja, not on anyone else that can get you up there. Titles, it looks good on paper, but at the end, what really matters is the salary you're taking home, it's the skills that you're developing, and it's the time that you're saving for the productive or the creative stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I think I would like to add a little bit of work-life integration, work-life balance,
absolutely.
flexibility. I understand work is an integral part of a life, but I think there is also more to life than
Yeah.
that, that one must take care of because life is short. Yeah. I think the next question is something we already answered earlier. What certification and training do you recommend? I think we've covered that. And in the interest of time and considering we have a lot of open questions, I'm just going to move on. So, what are your thoughts or views on AI? As you know, how could it possibly affect our testing careers in future? For example, say 5 to 10 years from now.
To be honest, I take year by year. I see how things are progressing, and testing as a career, I don't see that going away. Like Pooja also mentioned, AI is there to assist. It's more of a baby who's trying to help us get things done, and more of the regression kind of stuff where more of the boring stuff and giving us the time back to be more creative, more productive. So if I had to see careers that may probably go, it's probably development and not testing, because you need to test those AI models, need to make sure that the data is up to date and the model is more relevant, the knowledge, the information, the analytics that it's providing is more accurate, more realistic. And yeah, of course, it can automate, it can start writing code, it can take off the roles of developers and maybe others. But testing is something that requires the human mind. And I would always say human intelligence is greater than artificial intelligence, because the most powerful supercomputer, when if you have quantum computing coming up, um, we've seen that growth from generative AI to agentic and now quantum. I would still say the brain is the most powerful supercomputer. So use it as much as possible. And yeah, that's how I'd like to put it.
Yeah, 100%. I think AI is there to kind of assist us, help us, kind of help with the monotonous task. So we can do the smarter things, more fun things, more productive things, more creative things. The goal is kind of to use it as an assistant, but
Yeah,
the whole thing is human brain, human expertise is always, always the core. And I don't think that's going away anywhere soon or later. I think every few years you have something that scares us that will take a job. But I think if our core skill sets are strong enough, should be fine.
yeah.
Next question. Is browser use safe to use? Um,
I'm not sure what browser uses.
yeah, I'm sorry. If someone could, if whoever asked the question, if you could have a follow-up question clarifying that, that'd be great. I'll just move on to the next question. What career trajectory will you recommend for someone who's already a nested for almost 3 years now but wants to grow more?
Mhm. I would say again, it's time to self-reflect, because if you feel you have been too technical and want to take up the leadership role, you can
Mhm.
always talk to your manager, get more insights as to what it takes to get you to that path. And again, I think for 3 years it's too early for that role. I would still recommend that you grow more technically, understand where the gaps lie, where you can grow more technically. If you're interested in doing something different, it's again on you to analyze that and see where the trends are taking you. So yeah, that's in short, Pooja.
Okay. I think we again covered this to some extent in
Yeah.
the next question. What kind of trainings, learnings can be taken to transition from mid-management to
Mhm.
strategic leader? Or probably you can address that quickly because I know we covered like a part of it, but this
Yeah.
is more specific. Yeah.
I think there are ISTQB courses as well for managers, specific courses. You have different certifications like PMP. You can also take up an executive MBA course if needed, which helps you shape and understand how businesses function, what is decision making, how you take calls, how you understand competitors, and stuff like that, which not necessarily your on the job experience has taught you or your schools and colleges. So these are some things that you can definitely try out.
Mm, makes sense. Next question. I'm facing the same issue Siddhant mentioned, that I've built tons of automation regression tests and spent hours putting in work, but I still struggle to sell myself effectively. What are the best ways to improve my explanation skills or visual presentation skills to kind of better showcase the work?
I would say, again, firstly, before showing it off to other stakeholders, think as a stakeholder yourself, is your work speaking for itself? Are you able to highlight the critical aspects of what you have been doing? Is it productive? Is it adding value? And I think it's all about visibility and credibility that silently sees and opens up opportunities. So learn from others' journeys while you're networking with people, like I mentioned during webinars or conferences, you can identify where the mistakes are, where the gaps are. And when you get more exposure to real world problems and solutions, that is where I think whether you're putting metrics in place or you're trying to identify what is the return value that you're providing as whether you're an individual contributor or a manager, that should answer.
Yeah, and I think it's important to focus on the impact,
Mhm.
because we often get lost in resumes, or we talk about what we've done versus
Yeah.
the impact that we've created. So it's important to kind of reshift focus or think of whatever you've achieved or the hard work that you put in terms of what impact has it created, and kind of probably talk from that angle and see if that changes just the inner voice a little bit.
Mhm.
The next question that we have: how do I start with browser use? I think it's repetition of what we had earlier, but again, if someone could clarify that, and I think in interest of time, I'm not sure we'll be able to get through all the questions, but which other cross-functional role in an organization makes the most sense for someone in QA leadership role?
Cross-functional. Now, it again depends person to person and where your interest lies. I mean, if you feel you want to get more into details of a specific product or a segment which is within your organization, you can always pick up the product management role, or maybe join or work closely with production support engineers. Also, as a tester, whether you're into individual or management roles, you can closely align yourself with other stakeholders, whether it's product sales, marketing, dev for that matter. You need to work closely with them to understand all aspects of customer experience, because at the end, it's the customer, it's the quality that you're delivering that matters. So once you work with them very closely, you understand which role is suitable. And if your interest develops that, okay, probably you want to see yourself down the line in that particular role doing better, then there you are.
Okay, thank you. Siddha, I just have one question. We are exactly on time.
Mhm.
Do you mind if we extend this for like
Yeah,
15 minutes
absolutely.
further so that we can give justice to maximum questions? Sakshi,
Sure.
just if you could help us extend for 15 minutes more, please. Thank you. Okay. So next question. I have observed that a person from QA background moved to engineering management role. They are not entertained for interviews due to lack of experience in system design, full-time coding. How do you tackle a situation where you kind of want to enter engineering management?
Now, again, it depends person to person, company to company. Um, but to be honest, if I was interviewing for similar roles, I generally check the logic, the analytical capabilities of a person. It's not all about design patterns, coding best practices, oops concepts, or how many lead code problems you've solved. What matters is if I give you a situation, a scenario, and you have to deal with that particular use case, what are the what is your thought process behind it, and are you able to come up with better solutions is something that I would look for. So Yeah, that is what I would put. But again, different companies interview differently. And yeah, what I would say is keep upskilling, and the more technical you get, that should get you there.
Yeah, plus I think engineering management is a whole different beast.
Yeah,
Again, like any management role is another beast. So, if someone's not getting interviews due to, say, because they're not coding full time, I think that is not the ideal way to judge.
yeah,
So, probably need to understand the ideologies of the company as to what they believe in. Because I think it's more about leadership skills and how would you navigate tricky situations and
right.
kind of be an umbrella for your team to protect them from the storms that come through. I think that's what a good leader would do. So it's kind of to reshift thought and focus there as well. Okay, next question. How is the salary growth or when you're an automation engineer versus a manual engineer?
Salary growth, to be honest, again, this is a tricky question because it differs service-based companies to product companies. It also differs between manual to automation to estate to any other role that you're looking for. Of course, there is an uptick growth when it comes to developing your automation skills. If you are more technical, there is a better salary, of course. So yeah.
Thank you for the honest answer. What skills have helped you the most in transitioning from a tester to a leader?
Uh, this is a good question, to be honest. There have been several skills. I would just say first thing is self-reflection because it's self-reflection and inner zeal. So if I didn't have that passion within me or the inner zeal within me to switch careers, think outside of development and get into automation, get into testing and see how this pans out. Uh, it was all about a leap of faith, and you can audit yourself, see what excites you, what drains you, and if you're growing, if you're plateauing, or if you're declining. So I would say get uncomfortable, join a cross-functional project if needed, learn a new skill. It could be performance, security, or generative AI for that matter, or start sharing knowledge. Find a mentor or a peer for that within your group, within your team, and see how you can grow in isolation. But for you, connect with people who push you, challenge you. For me, it was mainly my parents who kept supporting me through all ups and downs, and yeah, they were always with me. So find your support, find your backbone who can always help you get to a spot where you can improve yourself, and be ready for rejections, delays, maybe slow promotions, but make sure that even if you're not being promoted, even if you're not growing technically, you are investing time in yourself. So work-life balance does matter, but at the same time, make sure that if you are working at a job, you are investing time for yourself. And yeah, I can just take one more minute. When it comes to the phase of annual reviews, what I do generally for my team is I divide it into four goals. It's mostly around business initiatives, tech initiatives, org-wide initiatives, and self-development initiatives. So business is more around the project, the outcome that you're basically doing for your stakeholders, your customers, and what the business expects from you. Tech initiatives are more around how you're growing technically, what are the new initiatives, tech enhancements, or tech debts that you wish to deliver. Org-wide initiatives is more around what impact are you creating, what value are you creating within the organization, how people start knowing you, not within your team, but outside of teams, and all the ways to skip level management and beyond. And lastly, self-development is where you spend maybe 5 to 10% of your overall time where you're upskilling on something new that you have carved out during the year. So that is something I would leave you all with a takeaway from this one.
No, but I think that's a good food for thought for
Mhm.
everyone to kind of go think and tackle on these. Okay, our next question is what are the effective approaches in choosing test cases for API testing and UI testing frameworks?
Again, this is subjective because it depends based on your project or based on the um, segment that you're working on. But Yeah, if you have seen the test pyramid, it's all about having unit tests, having APIs automated as much as possible, and then moving into UI, non-functional areas end to end, because that's where the top of the pyramid gets more expensive, gets more tricky, and the lesser you have at the top is better. The more you cover when it's the bottommost, where you have better unit tests, more component focused test, and integrated test is where you should focus on.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. I'm working as an that uh, I know about automation and also want to grow in automation. Can you give a proper automation roadmap?
Automation roadmap. Okay, that's nice. In fact, now, yeah, again, you may have the title of SDET, but under that particular role, what technical skills have you already covered? Are you already good with infrastructure as a code? Do you know DevOps? Do you know cloud? Do you know generative AI? Or have you touched all segments of automation, whether it's visual AI automation, whether it's UI, whether it's API or XYZ? So there are multiple growth parts, a lot of technical skills to learn and adapt. I would recommend one simplified website that I see is Test Automation University. You can definitely go there, check out the different learning paths, and it literally helps you from what basic programming language you should upskill on, and how you can grow from whether you know web or mobile automation, how you can start off and where it can go on to an advanced level. So that's one thing I can suggest.
Mm. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to read this out, but I think we can skip it because it's not aligning with the topic. But
Mhm.
can you guide me on how to speed up automation testing execution? Because it takes too much time when executing, with JMeter, it's finding elements and then creating test data. And I think it's a little out of scope when it comes to this topic. So
Yeah,
yeah, I kind of want to leave that out because there are a few questions that are more relevant to growing in the space and we can kind of address as many.
yeah,
Okay, I'm a bit confused in the industry that I did not get an opportunity to have good internships. So I built myself in the industry, but every time I try to upgrade or get new opportunities, different companies ask for different tools, different languages. I cannot possibly fill all requirements, but how can I tackle these issues?
yeah. Again, if you're looking for a switch, and yeah, companies will have different demands based on their needs, because yeah, they have been functioning in a specific manner. They have a framework or a tool in place since long, and they won't expect you come in and get a switch unless, yeah, you have worked on a special use case or a special tool that's fitting all needs. So what I would suggest is grow technically. You need to um, not set barriers within yourself. Don't build those walls. I would say think beyond. And it's not necessary to know each and everything. Get into the breadth, but get deeper into single stuff. Like be a jack of all trades, but be a master of at least one. So even if a person knows Java, I would say a person can still learn how to code in Python or Go language for that matter. So it's all about logic. It's all about understanding the baseline, the little fundamentals of a programming language. This is just one example to put in that context.
Yeah, and that's a fair thought nugget that, like I said, it's important to have your fundamentals strong. Frameworks come and go.
Yeah,
Nothing is perfect. I mean, I'm one of the core contributors of Selenium. We'd be there for over 2 decades, and I wish we were there for a lifetime. But
yeah,
again, one should be able to pick up a language or a tool and learn and go with it. But if your fundamentals are clear, you'll be able to, um, yeah, you'll be able to do it, and then should be fine. Um, Next question. What metrics do you usually track and report to leadership?
I think that's a tricky
Mm.
question again, because metrics differ person to person, company to company, project to project. Um, the way I have defined metrics, it is basically around customers. It's around processes within. uh, th- the quality segment, and it's around the value that's being created out of quality. So, firstly, when it comes to processes, we have, I mean, I can share this post the session that we have today. So, I will be creating an article on LinkedIn. It will go live maybe in an hour or so. So, that will share more deeper insights, and you all can read through that. But yeah, when it comes to customer satisfaction, you have CSAT scores, you have NPS. When it comes to overall DevOps related metrics, you have the DORA metrics that was earlier defined by Google employees. There was a specific team, DevOps research and assessment team, where they put in metrics like mean time to repair, uh, change in frequency of deployments, and several of those. When it comes to automation and the value you're creating, identify how many defects you're catching through automation. Are you maintaining that from time to time? If it's only passing and not adding much value, you need to keep maintaining those. When it comes to processes, what is the bug efficacy? What are your mm, I mean, I can just go on and on, because you need to identify where the process gaps lie. That's segment number one. Segment two is where the value is actually being created. Are there defects that are going out to production that you missed during testing and it's being reported through customers or during incidents? So that's defect leakage. That's one. But there are several metrics. And like I said, business will always look towards metrics, towards ROI. But how you're able to understand what you're providing to your customers, are you able to deep dive into specific segments? That's what matters.
Okay. Thank you so much, Siddhant. I know we have more questions, but we're almost out of time, so I'm going to get to the closing part. But again,
Sure.
thank you so much, everyone, for your questions, and you can always find me on Siddharth on LinkedIn and reach out to us if you have more questions or concerns around this space. I wish we had the time to answer everything, and so thank you for the overwhelming response that we've received over 34 questions, and we were not able to get to all of them. So apologies for that. But we're already over time, so I'm just going to get to the closing bit. I think we have, yeah. So quick information that we have. Okay, yeah, we have an upcoming event, right? So we have the flagship Breakpoint conference, which is for all sorts of testers, QAs, practitioners, and you can register for free and come in and listen to the exciting lineup of speakers that we have. And it's based around AI, accessibility, all new things, new things shiny. So I think there's a poll that's on your machine. I'll just give it 10 more seconds and then I'll probably move on. Okay. Um, I think I'm going to move on from the poll. Thank you for the whoever participated in that. And I think, yeah, I think this is the exact poll question that came in. And just the closing bit. So I think, again, I'm not sure how my screen is blocking this. I'm just going to move this around. So if you have apologies, um, if you want to have more such discussions or you want to have more such questions with the community from experts in the community, from developer advocates at BrowserStack, or just from experts in general. We have a Discord community that we've brought together. Yes, we call it a BrowserStack Discord community because we support it, but it's honestly by the community, for the community, sort of a thing where we encourage all sorts of discussions. You can ask and contribute, share your knowledge, blogs, questions, conference experiences. You'll see me, David, and Manish hang out there often in general. Um, and we'll try and and we have other people as well, like I think Siddharth and others who are champions of BrowserStack and who've done amazing work with us. So feel free to scan the code, take it to a form, just fill it up, and then you should get an link on the work email. It's just a little bit of process, and I hope to see you guys in the Discord community, and we'll be doing more such events that are just exclusively for Discord community as well. So please do join us. Um, and yeah, last but not the least part, thank you. Thank you, everyone who made this possible, the audience. Thank you, Siddharth, for your valuable time, sharing your insights, knowledge. I know there's a lot to tap into, And I don't think one session was kind of enough uh, to get us there. And thank you, the entire events team, for kind of making this happen. It was amazing.
Thank you so much, Pooja, and thanks to BrowserStack for inviting me. I would definitely say that if folks do have more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to address them as well.
Thank you so much, folks. I think we'll be ending the webinar now. We have a lovely day or a lovely night, depend on which time zone you're here from. But again, thank you for your time. I understand how it is on a working day, but yeah, thank you, everyone. This was good. Thanks for that.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks, Pooja. Bye.